What's up, guys? Sean again with the commands of Christ. We're looking at be reconciled. I know that we've looked at it before. One of the biggest issues that you see with being reconciled is, what do you do when the other people don't want to reconcile? And I think we underestimate how powerful of a tool forgiveness really is. There's two dynamics to being reconciled. It's the reconciliation from the other person, and it's the reconciliation in you. In most cases, I think love overpowers the negativity. And this is kind of a long one, so forgive me. Matthew chapter 5, therefore if you're offering your gift at the altar, and remember that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there and go and be reconciled to them, and then come and offer your gift. So God is basically saying that if you want to have fellowship with Him, He wants you to go and be reconciled with somebody that has something against you first. You know, imagine the situation. You did something wrong to them, you offended them, you owe them money, whatever. He's saying, go straighten that out and then come to me. Crazy. Settle matters quickly with your adversary who's taking you to court. Do it while you're still on the way. Your adversary may hand you over to the judge, and the judge to the officer, and the officer into prison. Crazy. So we see that part of reconciliation. And then in Matthew chapter 18, if your brother sins against you. So we see how He wants you to deal if you sin against them. Now it's them sinning against you. And this is very detailed. If your brother or sister sins against you, go to them and point out their fault. Now, first off, this first line, if you read it in NIV or most versions, it'll say if your brother or sister sins. So everybody's like, oh yeah, if my brother sins, I'm going to go tell him he did wrong. No, look, you got to go back to the original Greek. This problem is rampant in the church. Nobody's really looking at like what was actually said. If your brother or sister sins against thee, against you. So if you go to like ASV or King James Version, which is closer to the original Greek, it'll say against you, if they sin against you. So if somebody's sinning, it's not your job to go over there and say, hey boy, you better stop your sinning, you're going to hell. That's not your job. If your brother or sister sins against you, go and point out their fault just between the two of you. If they listen to you, you have won them over, but if they do not listen, take one or two others along, so every matter may be established by the testimony of 2 or 3 witnesses. If they still refuse, tell it to the congregation. If they refuse to listen even to them, treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector. So, what does that mean? Give them the cold shoulder? Be mean to them? How do you treat a pagan or a tax collector? Guys, he's saying, in other words, they're without God. It's understood at that point, if they wrong you, and they don't listen to you, and they don't listen to other people, they're not getting it. In other words, they're without God. How do we treat people that are without God? Jesus teaches to love your enemies. Jesus teaches to pray for your enemies. Jesus teaches to share the gospel, to be merciful, to be kind. Guys, so when he says treat them as you would a pagan or a tax collector, that means go out of your way to show love. That's what that means, not be a jerk. Again, and truly I tell you, if two of you on earth agree about anything they ask, it will be given by my Father in heaven. Whether 2 or more gathered in my name, there I am with them. The parable of the unmerciful servant. Peter came to Jesus and said, Lord, how many times shall I forgive my brother or sister who sins against me? Up to 7 times? I mean, he's being real reasonable right there. Jesus said, no, not seven times, but 77 times. In some verses it says 77 times 7. So you could look at it as a minimum of 10 times more than the most you could think of. I'll give you an example. Somebody comes and they steals tools from you, or they steal money from you, or they break into your house, or they offend you. I mean, it really pisses you off when people steal from you. There's no justification for theft. It's wrong. It's wrong biblically, it's wrong morally, and look at what he's saying. Look at what he's saying. Forgive them infinity, even if it was 70 times, 77 times, forgive them. And he gives you an example. Therefore, the kingdom of heaven is like a king who wanted to settle accounts with his servants. As he began the settlement, a man who owed him 10,000 bags of gold, 10,000 bags of gold was brought to him. Since he was not able to pay, he was ordered to be put in prison, and him and his family sold for the debt. At this, the servant fell to his knees and said, "Please be patient with me, and I'll pay it all back." Servant's master took pity on him, canceled the debt, and lets him go. When he gets out, he finds one of his fellow servants, who owes him 100 silver coins, grabs him by the throat, starts choking him, and demands he pays back everything he owes him. Fellow servant falls on his knees, says, "Be patient with me and I'll pay it back." He refuses. Instead, he had him thrown into prison until he could pay the debt. When the other servants saw this, they were outraged, told the master, and the master said, "You wicked servant. I canceled all that debt of yours because you begged me to. Shouldn't you have had the same mercy on your fellow servant, just as I have had on you?" In his anger, his master handed him over to the jailers to be tortured until he could pay back all he owed. This is how my heavenly Father will treat each of you unless you forgive your brother or sister from your heart. That is deep. That gets me right here. Guys, I don't have to say anymore. It's an amazing teaching. I love it. That's Be Reconciled. Remember, it comes from two directions. In the most important place, it comes from you. Thanks, guys. Have a great day.